Look into my eyes. Do you see fear? You come at me with sword and spear, but I come in the name of the God of Israel. Yes! Right between the eyes! Did you see that? Anyone? Of course not. Okay then, one more time. Tally, not now! I'm trying to protect us from this Philistine. Whoa! No, not that way. Come on. Back to your mom. Right, Philistine. Oh, wait! Right between the eyes. Oh, of course. That one you saw. Tally! Tally, no! I'm coming, girl! Whoa, easy! Shira! I will bring her home safely. Whoa! Tally, wait, no! There you go. I'm almost through. Okay. Oh! Tally, stop! No! Oh, that doesn't help. That does. Stop. Thank you. Yena haleni nafshi yeshobeh yancheni b'magalet tzedek leman shemo.
What you have just watched is a concept short or a musical animated feature film on the story of David, and our vision is to tell it in the same quality as movies like Tangled and Frozen. This is more than a movie. This is a movement to join people from all over the world to try and make the world's most watched animated theatrical release. You can show your interest in investing by going to angel.com/David. Growing up in the wild of Africa was the most incredible experience, and it was there that I bumped into the most amazing character of God and fell in love with him. At the same time, I was reading David's story, and it just really struck me. On one particular canoe trip on the Zambezi River, where you could canoe for days and not see a human being, I was reading the scriptures and I read, "I found in David, son of Jesse, a man after my own heart." And I thought how amazing it would be to do a film that would give people all over the world a glimpse into God's heart. We grew up on a farm that had no electricity. I only saw my first film when I was 14 years old, and it was such an electric experience. I was blown away by the power of film and the power of story to connect with people and move people. And from that day, I became passionate to tell a story on the life of David. The question is, can a group of farmers from Africa make a global hit that's going to reach the world? This is in and of itself an incredible David versus Goliath story.
There's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. And in order to tell a story as big as David, we need people from all around the world to come together.
Over the last 20 years, Jackie and I have just been blown away by how God has miraculously drawn talent to us. Now we have the most awesome, high-quality team.
Like Nathan Stanton, who spent 22 years at Pixar, Jonas Myron, a Grammy Award-winning musician, Borja Mentora, a Disney animation alumni, other talent from massive films like Big Hero 6, Tangled, Finding Nemo, Zootopia, Moana, Prince of Egypt, and many more.
Our first breakout hit is Jungle Beat, an incredible and beautiful show. On our YouTube channel, we get over 2 billion views a year. We've got 7 million subscribers. We also recently released our first animated feature film called Jungle Beat the Movie. And incredibly, it was on Netflix's top 10 for over 2 weeks, both live action and animated feature films in the US. We are also doing a theatrical release of Jungle Beat the Movie in China later this year, and are in production of Jungle Beat the Movie 2. What really excites me is if you take Jungle Beat the Movie, we produced that for $5 million. And I'd really encourage you to go and watch it on Netflix to see the quality of movie we produce for that price. And just imagine the quality of movie we could produce on David with the proper budget. With David, we considered the route of engaging with Hollywood, and there is significant interest down that route. But we really felt that from a creative point of view, we need to stay the head and not the tail of this project. And it's a slingshot, like David went with a slingshot to fight Goliath. We really believe that the strategy needs to be outside the Hollywood system for it to work. In this vein, we are thrilled to be working with Angel Studios for distribution. Angel Studios did the TV series The Chosen, which has become the world's biggest TV series on the life of Jesus Christ. The Chosen has generated hundreds of millions of views and tens of millions of dollars. We've already got $19 million of investments and need another $35 million to complete this project. We need your help to bring God's heart to the world through the story of David. Go to angel.com/David to show your support for this project now. And let's join together to try and make the world's most watched animated theatrical release. Welcome everyone. It's so awesome to have you with us today on this live stream, and particularly a very warm welcome to Nick Vujicic's fans. I just think later he's going to come onto the show. We are incredibly lucky to have one of our generation's most inspirational people, if I can say a modern day David. And we're so excited to welcome Nick onto this live stream shortly, but just wanted to welcome his fans in particular tonight and today, your time. So quickly, what is David? What are we doing? Just to clarify, David is an animated feature film. And to give you an idea of the vision we've got, this is, if you can think of the authenticity of a movie like Prince of Egypt, and then the energy, adventure, and fun of a movie like Tangled, and you mix those two together, that's, I think, where we're going with David. The other beautiful thing about David is it's a musical. And what we love about it, it's authentically musical, because we know that David wrote half the songs in the Bible, and so he was called Israel's singer of songs. And so to bring in that music is just completely natural and authentic. So we are very passionate about making a high quality animated feature film, and that's what David is. Tonight, what we're doing is just gauging interest. With this live stream, you can go on to angel.com/David just to see how you can participate. And we're doing, what we're doing is gauging interest. We're trying to crowdfund, and at this phase, we're gauging interest for what appetite there is to go forward with us and crowdfund this movie. And if you go look, it's just incredible. We've got $15.5 million pledged already, which as far as I know is close to, if not a record in terms of pledging for an independent film in the crowdfunding. So yeah, tonight, if we could have a goal of going towards $15,000, so if we clock that clock now, it's on 15,544,000. So if my maths is right, we're going to try and get up to 15,560, and let's see how we go. So if you want to join in this movie and see how you can participate, go to angel.com/David, and that's where you can be pledging. The other thing tonight I'd like to say is, if you've got stories of how you're overcoming giants in your life, or if you know somebody who's close to you is overcoming giants, please, we'd love to hear those stories and for you to post them in the stream. And also, we're going to have a Q&A at the end, which you're going to be more than welcome to fire questions, and we'll answer them to the best of our ability as we go. So please, if you've got questions, start popping them in the stream, and we'll go to questions at the end, and we'd love to hear your questions. We really want this to be interactive, not just a one-way talk. So I just want to introduce Nick, and he's going to come on screen in a second. But Nick is an Australian-born man without any arms or legs, and honestly, the giants that he has overcome makes most of our problems seem incredibly trivial. He's become a world-renowned speaker. He's a motivational speaker, and I've met Nick on a couple of occasions now just before this live stream, and he is super inspirational. So Nick, if possible, there's a picture of Nick and his wife, and we're going to actually invite him in person at this moment to join us. Nick, if you'd like to join us on this live stream. Hey, Nick.
Phil, my honor and pleasure. Hello to everyone watching. Thank you so much, first of all, for your patience and long suffering, as something like this, Phil, with your whole team takes many, many, many more years than anyone can ever think of. And I'm so excited to tell everyone that I know about the David film. With Angel Studio, I've actually had the privilege of going to the headquarters up in Provo in Utah and getting to know the whole team there as well. And
Look into my eyes. Do you see fear? You come at me with sword and spear, but I come in the name of the God of Israel. Yes! Right between the eyes! Did you see that? Anyone? Of course not. Okay then. One more time. Tally, no! I'm trying to protect us from this Philistine. Whoa! No, not that way. Come on. Back to your mom. Right, Philistine. Oh, wait! Right between the eyes. Oh, of course. That one you saw. Tally! Tally, no! I'm coming, girl! Whoa, easy! Shira! I will bring her home safely. Whoa! Tally, wait, no! There you go. I'm almost through. doesn't help. That does. Stop. Thank you. Yena haleni nafshi yeshobeh yancheni b'mgalet tzedek leman shemo.
What you have just watched is a concept short or a musical animated feature film on the story of David, and our vision is to tell it in the same quality as movies like Tangled and Frozen. This is more than a movie. This is a movement to join people from all over the world to try and make the world's most watched animated theatrical release. You can show your interest in investing by going to angel.com/David. Growing up in the wild of Africa was the most incredible experience, and it was there that I bumped into the most amazing character of God and fell in love with him. At the same time, I was reading David's story, and it just really struck me. On one particular canoe trip on the Zambezi River, where you could canoe for days and not see a human being, I was reading the scriptures and I read, "I found in David, son of Jesse, a man after my own heart." And I thought how amazing it would be to do a film that could give people all over the world a glimpse into God's heart. We grew up on a farm that had no electricity. I only saw my first film when I was 14 years old, and it was such an electric experience. I was blown away by the power of film and the power of story to connect with people and move people. And from that day, I became passionate to tell a story on the life of David. The question is, can a group of farmers from Africa make a global hit that's going to reach the world? This is in and of itself an incredible David versus Goliath story.
There's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. And in order to tell a story as big as David.
Hi everyone, sorry about the technical glitches here. My hands must have gotten in the way. Until Phil comes back from South Africa, I'm just going to take over this. Thank you so much already to some of you already pledging towards the investment opportunity actually through Angel Studios, who actually did do the fundraising and crowdfund raise for The Chosen. It's been very successful. Angel Studio, I've had the privilege of meeting with them face-to-face in Provo, Utah, and was really excited about the many projects that God is doing through Angel Studio. But when this came across my desk and to really connect with Phil Cunningham and his team from South Africa, I just want you to know that as someone who's been married to my beautiful wife, here's a photo right here, me and my wife, Kanae. We've been married now for 10 years, and we're really blessed with these 4 beautiful kids. This is not the most recent photo of the 4 children, but we have now Kiyoshi, who's 9, Dayan, who's 7, and our twin girls, who are 4.5 years old. So Daddy's already the shortest person in the house. Look, what's really amazing is that, look, technologically, and even fiduciary wise, we have actually been able to see people basically through Angel Studio vote and be a part of and participate in the investment opportunities that are God-given, that really not only, as I was saying earlier, are Disney things to just entertain people. It's really being entertained with first-class quality for us of those who know that right now, with the last 3 years of the pandemic and quarantine measures, that many people are facing giants in their life: anxiety, depression, addiction. And many times where we feel like we're down pre-COVID, we were able to talk with people, connect with people, go to church every week. Well, not everyone had the privilege of doing that. And now with this disconnect, especially now with the hyper addiction to technology, the separation within the home, and even knowing how to start conversations that seem complex, that even are in some ways divisive between the family. This, when I heard about the story of David and it being done by someone who has an extensive track record of the Jungle Beat. Did you hear that? 2 billion to 3 billion hits annually, 7.1 million subscribers on their YouTube channel. Their second film, animation, going to China. I mean, God has absolutely put his fingerprints of favor and his dreams through Phil Cunningham and his team. And the reason why we're doing this live stream to the fans and followers of social media here is to let you know that I really believe in the David Project. And right now in this phase of investment right now through Angel Studio, you can simply go to angel.com/David and actually pledge towards it. It's a non-binding pledge. But if you're looking at this and you're seeing the snippet and you're seeing that I'm actually endorsing such a high class, I mean, did you see that high class qualitative team and even reel that you've seen right now? I'll tell you right now, I believe that this will be one of the most long-standing, evergreen, biblical animation based stories ever in the history. And I really, truly believe that it's going to be succeeding Tangled in many, many ways. If you looked at the team and animators and people from different animation projects that were included in other big mega hits globally, I really believe that they've got the vision, they've got the team, and they've so far got 15,044,000, something like that, raised so far. They're looking for another $15,000 to $30,000 pledge right here, right now. That's right. Now, it's non-binding and it's a pledge to say, yes, you know what? I am interested in seeing David come to life. I am interested in seeing this David Project be blessed by God. And they've got everything they need. They've got the script, they've got the team, they've got the strategy, they've got everything except right now for the validation of the finance. And right now, many people have heard about different projects, such as The Chosen, and those people who invested in The Chosen have understood as well that those funds are being returned to do the next 4 seasons. I had the privilege of meeting Dallas Jenkins, and I'm a huge fan of what's happening there. But this project, we want you to know that this is not just a give towards a project or a nonprofit. This is an investment platform to see this huge project come to life and not just entertain the next generation. I don't want my children to be just entertained by another Disney film. In fact, I see Phil, and Phil's back on, but I just want to say this, that this is more than just entertaining. This is more than just encouraging. It's really inspiring the next generation and understanding how we all have giants in our life that we need to conquer. Whether it's addiction, whether it's bullying, whether it's fear, whether it's isolation, whatever that is, and even thoughts of suicide. All these things, we really believe here that the Project David is absolutely going to inspire the next generation worldwide. And I just want to say congratulations to you, Phil. Sorry that you had some technical difficulties. Glad that you're here. Phil, I want to ask you a question. If you can actually share about what you really believe qualitatively in some detail. What are you hoping for the next generation and parents of children that really you want to share us the vision of the heart part behind this? What impact are you seeing God set you up and the Project of David to really make an impact through millions of people's lives all around the world?
No, thanks, Nick. And first to say, you showed your true giant slaying ability by just soldiering on, even when there was technical challenges. So thank you. Can see you used to dealing with difficulty. And really appreciate it. Thank you, Nick. And we just had a pledge there from Akene. So thank you, Akene. That's awesome. And Nick, I'll dive to your question. But seeing as you are guest, I'd love a super quick question. And I have parked your question. It's in my mind. But maybe we could just kick off because you've overcome incredible giants in your life. And I guess my question to you is, and for people on this live stream, how did you do it? Because like the challenge you faced was a giant and is a giant. And maybe you could just share with us, how did you find the strength? How did you manage to go about this giant that you had to face with your life? And
You
then
know,
I'll
I
get
always
back
tell
to your question,
teenagers that I
Stephanie.
believe it's worse being in a broken home than having no arms and legs. And you can have different circumstances or faces of giants, but really, in our hearts, we still all feel brokenhearted. We still feel sometimes fear, anxiety, depression. Just because I've overcome the giants of my life by the grace of God, it doesn't mean that Nick doesn't, cry. Nick doesn't go through depression anymore. The last 3 years have also been very difficult for me and my family as well. And so, one day at a time, knowing that God is with me, knowing that He'll carry me when I cannot walk. I was raised in a home that loved me, who believed in me. I was the first disabled student to go into a mainstream school system education of Australia in 1989, and I was the only one with no arms and no legs in the whole school, and I was starting to be afraid about my future and thinking, who am I? Why am I here? Why would God allow me to be born this way? And everyone has more than me. And I had bullying as one of my giants, fear of the future as one of my giants. I thought to myself, I'm never going to get a job. I'm never going to be independent. I'm just going to be a burden to everyone around me, and I'm going to get bullied for the rest of my life. And when you don't know the truth that you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and you don't know the truth that God does have a plan for you, you don't know the truth that all things do come together for the good for those who love Him. Philippians 4:13, that you can endure through all things through Christ who strengthens you. When you don't know the truth, and there's silence and there's wounds and there's hurt, those wounds sometimes can cripple you more than actually having no limbs. And so it's understanding from my soul, my spirit, and my mind that needed full healing first. And arms and legs doesn't give you happiness, just like money doesn't make you happy, just like some of your teenage girls feeling like if they don't have a boyfriend right now, they're never going to get married. If they don't get married, they need to be more pretty, or they need to be more athletic. It's all about the brokenness and giants of the heart and the mind that you can only face with the truth. And it doesn't matter whether it's a sword or a slingshot, it's the Word of God. And whatever you have, that's what God's going to use. How can God ever expect you to use something He hasn't given you? And that was the flip for me, Phil, where God used my parents to say, Nick, be thankful for what you have. Don't complain about what God hasn't given. Focus on what you do have. What do you have in your hands? You got a brain. You got food on the table. You've got safety and security in a loving home. Do your best and watch God bless all the other things and the rest that you need. And so God may not always give us for what we want, but He will always give us what we need. And what we really need is the truth that the next generation needs to know, that God is with us, that He will never call us to do something He will not give us provision for. He will not call us to do something He will not give us the courage to go forth in. And so courage, listen, when David faced Goliath, courage is not when he wasn't afraid. Courage is when he did it despite his fear. And that's the courage, resilience, and faith that God needs us, especially in these times of trouble and persecution and so on, where we need to see our children being inspired about the times of David, where it was political. It was restrictive. I mean, we're talking about biggest bully, Goliath. And David not only got 5 stones for Goliath, but his brothers as well. And so this is the story for such a time as this. This is going to be a first class, beautifully done. Congratulations, Phil, and everything that God's done through you so far in the multi-projects that you've been having over the last, I would say, 15 to 20 years. And I really got excited to connect with you one-on-one to see the vision of this. And I'm excited. I'm honored, Phil, that I can tell all the followers right now on social media about this, because I'm really, truly excited for my own children to be inspired by stuff. What did they get from Tangled? What did they get from all the other stuff? Nothing. I actually have to watch this stuff and say, no, actually, you can't watch this, or you have to skip this. There's nothing to skip. There's nothing to turn your eye away from or block your ears on right here. I just told people about Bluey mini episodes, that I don't want them to watch the new stuff that Bluey, that animation is doing right now, because it's not what I want my kids to watch. As a father of 4, this is a perfect example for those of us who understand the times that we're living in, to inspire the next generation of what faith and courage was. And Phil, one of my concerns was, well, did they really, when I say they, did your team really
Yeah.
filter through the story with rabbis and people who made sure that it wasn't just like, some people didn't like Moana who were from Hawaii. We don't want Israel citizens to say, oh, we don't like the David Project because they didn't do this,
we don't like
or
the
they
David
did
Project.
this. Perfect example. And yes, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I did my due diligence. Let me tell you, Phil and his team are doing an excellent job in making sure that the validation and qualitative measures have been put in play to absolutely do what they do, say what they say through the film in all protection and reality and quality of the story back then in the days of David.
No, thanks, Nick. That's so inspirational, and what you've overcome and how you've just framed it to everyone on this live stream. Thank you. I'll dive back to your question, but very quickly to speak to one thing Nick was saying about our passion for authenticity. So we as a team, as I was telling Nick on a call before this a few weeks ago, we've done 5 trips to Israel, and our passion is to really build a project of deep authenticity. We've been to the Valley of Eli, the City of David, to Ziklag, and it's just been so incredible. I'll quickly tell you one story. Nick, when we were in the Valley of Eli, the other director and myself walked across, and the archaeologist was telling us exactly where David and his army would have stood, or the Israelite army, and where the Philistine army was. And we walked the exact line. And it was the most incredible experience. As you dropped down into the river, the brook, it was quite a deep brook because it had been eroded. And all the ambient sound, like the dove noise and all the ambient sound, just disappeared. And as you walked out the other side, you just started to hear the sounds again. I can imagine David just down in that brook having a moment of silence. And then as he walks out, just the roar of the battlefield. But just to talk to what Nick was saying, you guys, we're really passionate about getting the authenticity right. We've got a lot of people connecting with us on this. One example is a guy called Rabbi Tuli Wise, an amazing rabbi who lives in Israel. And we've got such a passion. Even in the David logo, which you can just see on the screen there, that letter A comes from an archaeological find which says the House of David. So even the logo has got deep authenticity in it. But Nick, to quickly go back to your question on the heart of this movie, and why I just feel so lucky to have you on the live stream tonight, because I really feel you're a modern day David, is David came along, and in his generation, there was no record of mighty men. But by the end of his life, there's this incredible record of mighty men, how he inspired and changed the world around him. And my passion, Nick, is I love storytelling. Storytelling is just such a powerful mechanism to connect with people, to connect with their hearts as well as their minds, but also their hearts. Because if you just talk to somebody, sometimes you're just hitting the mind. But if you tell a story, you're getting into people's hearts. And why I love the story of David, he was far from perfect, as we know. But in Acts, it describes him, I found in David, son of Jesse, a man after my own heart. So I was just sharing with Nick, where I was born was in a country called Zimbabwe, and just canoeing down a river there called the Zambezi River and walking through the bush. Oh, by the way, this picture, Nick, that we've just brought up, that's my wife, Jackie, and an uncle walking in the wild with a lion. So we had the most amazing time, growing up in Africa and just walking with lions and canoeing down rivers like the Zambezi. But out there, I really felt the fingerprints of God, the creator, the architect, and just that wild, free spirit, that beautiful creator, and in a thunderstorm, and an elephant like what's on this picture. And I just fell in love with the character of God. And I was like, wow, I love storytelling. I love David. And so if we can tell a story on David, it's just a possibility to give people a glimpse into God's heart. So that was the heart of telling the story of David. And I'm just so passionate, Nick, about making a movie that's of high quality, that does compete, with the movies like from Disney and Pixar and DreamWorks. We don't want to just make a lame movie, but we really want to go there. And I'll maybe get onto the giant side, but maybe for people just joining the live stream, if you want to find out more about what we do, you can go to angel.com/David, and there's a lot more information about the movie there. And tonight, we're just trying to push our pledging along just to gauge interest. And if you want to pledge, you can go to that site there. And we try to get up to $15,000 tonight. But mainly, we just want you to enjoy this live stream and join the adventure. Nick, I'll chime in with one thing, and I'm going to come back to a question a question for you again, if that's okay. But yeah, I hope that this movie will connect people with God's heart. I also know, Nick, like you said, like all of us are facing giants, all of us are facing problems of different kinds. And I hope that this story, people go in with seeing a Goliath and come out with a different picture. So the one thing I was reading, Nick, was a thing of Eugene Peterson's where he says, when David entered the Valley of Eli, he had a God-dominated imagination. And everyone else in that Valley of Eli had a Goliath-dominated imagination. So my hope is that as people watch the story, that they come away inspired. And I just had a few pictures here just to show the equivalent of Goliath, the challenges that people are facing in their lives. And I hope that this story really inspires them to take on their giants, whatever your giant is. And we've all got challenges. We've all got giants. Many of us not the same scale as Nick. But yeah, I hope that this movie inspires and really challenges people to ride their wave of life and to fight their giants and to go forward. And yeah, my hope is that it connects them with God, who's the one who can actually ultimately help them connect and fight with their giants. And Nick, I put that picture there, just because that's someone who's facing challenges that like you faced. And, I've seen pictures of you swimming, surfing, which is incredible. So, yeah, Nick, I don't know if you told us a few stories, but have you got any specific stories that just a moment in your life or a specific story about taking on a giant in your life? I mean, obviously you've got a whole journey of facing a giant, but is there anything specific you could share with us that's like a David and Goliath moment when David went into the Valley of Eli? He needed to connect with God. What was your Valley of Eli moment maybe that you could share with us, if there's one that springs to mind? Yeah.
So again, I'm not a person that goes through more than someone else, Phil. I don't want to compare my struggle with yours or someone else's. Okay. Being in a foster home, you know what I mean? Like that's difficult. Yeah. Being sexually abused, okay? There are many people who have different difficulties in life and brokenness in our heart. Comparing each other's brokenness, there's no hope in that. But comparing the goodness of God to meet you where you're at, where the enemy tried to use the circumstances or whatever has happened for bad, when you give your broken pieces to God, not only can he do something good with that, but he can do something beautiful to a point where, as a teenager, I realized, yes, whether it's bullying, whether it's fear of the future, even condemning my own future with my words, saying, I'm never going to get married. I'm never going to get a job. I'm never going to be happy. I'm never going to be independent. Even if I got married, I can't even hold my wife's hand. Even if I had kids, how can I hold my children when they're crying? And these thoughts were coming to me at age 8, and I attempted suicide at age 10. At age 13, I was playing soccer on the soccer field, and I hurt my little foot in such a bad way I couldn't walk for 3 weeks. And that message that my parents always taught me was to always be thankful, the attitude of gratitude. The happiest people in life are those who actually are thankful and who have a lifestyle of gratitude. For me, though, it was difficult to believe that I had something to be thankful for when everyone else around me had more than me and I didn't know why. I prayed for God to change my circumstance. I prayed for God to give me a miracle, Phil, but instead of giving me a miracle, first of all, he rescued my soul, which is the greatest miracle of all, and I get to know him as my master, my king, my everything, and a friendship with God. That's everything. Second of all, though, is that he healed my broken heart to the point where if he doesn't change my circumstance, he will use it in another way, meaning God can take our obstacles and see it as opportunities. And here's the one that I love to say: when God doesn't give you a miracle, you can still be a miracle for somebody else. And so when God can use a man without arms and legs to be his hands and feet, then God can use any willing heart. If God can use David, a shepherd boy, to defeat Goliath and his brothers and become king, God can heal anyone. God can deliver anyone. And it's not just praying things away, it's walking through things. So, Phil, I was really thankful that I had some people to, encourage me along the way and say, God, what do you have for me? God, I don't know what you have for me, but Jeremiah 29 verse 11 says, you got a plan for me. I mean, imagine David. God, you got a plan for me. You got a plan for me. You got a plan for me. And I don't know what that is. And I have no idea what that looks like. I feel like there's something big coming, but I have no idea what that looks like. This is the beauty in the story of whether it's Nick, whether it's Phil, whether it's someone else that you know that you maybe look up to in some kind of way. We've all had to defeat our giants. And for me, it was giving my life to Jesus Christ at age 15, where I saw Jesus heal a blind man in John chapter 9. And I said, God, if you got a plan for me like you got a plan for a blind man, give me arms and legs. And today, Phil, I've seen miracles. I've been to 6 countries in Africa. Wow. My first countries was actually in South Africa, where your studios are. And, when I realized that, yes, the powers, principalities of darkness are real, and I've seen miracles, I have a pair of shoes in my closet just in case God gives me arms and legs. But I ain't waiting for arms and legs to stand in front of the gates of hell and redirect traffic. And in however we can actually help people understand that God has a plan for them, whether it be me evangelizing and sharing my story, my history is his story, whether we share the David story, his testimony, the history, his story, to inspire people to know that God is with you. He loves you. He's got a plan for you. And today, like the photos that I shared of me and my wife, I don't need to hold her hand. I need to hold her heart. You don't need hands for that. How am I going to hold my kids when they're crying? Kiyoshi, the oldest son of mine, he said, Daddy, I wish you had arms. I said, why? He said, because I want to know how it feels when you hug me. Well, check out the giants that my parents had to actually conquer. Look at this photo. This is my mom and my dad. Talk about giants in their life, Phil, if I may. There's a photo of me and my dad and my mom when they were first married. My mom was a nurse. My dad was a cost accountant and a lay pastor starting a church. My mom was 6 when their tyrant government, communism Yugoslavia, kicked her out of their home, took over their home. My parents fled communism Yugoslavia. They did not meet until they went to Australia. My grandfathers were both in prison. And so my parents were both in refugee camps, okay? And so they started life from the very beginning in Australia, 1960s. My dad was 15. My mom was 6 when they came to Australia. They got married. 5 years after being married, here I am, their firstborn son. They had no idea that I was going to be born this way. Talk about the giants. Doctors couldn't help them. No one could really comfort them. No one knew how it felt to have a child without arms and legs. And the doctors say he's going to be a vegetable for the rest of his life. There is my mom holding me. It took her about 4 months to actually come to terms with the emotional, psychological, mental, spiritual battles that were happening at that point. The doctor said I'd never walk, and now I golf, swim, fish, meet presidents, 23 presidents. This is my first wheelchair, 18 months old. This is my dad. And I was, driving around in that little, we call it a Comet. And, this is then when my mother fought the government's law to allow me to go to school. Here is me at school in front of a sandpit at the playground in that same wheelchair. This is me at 6 years old. I was the first disabled student to be going to a mainstream school system, first school in the country to put wheelchair ramps in, and actually change the law to allow special needs children to be integrated into the special school system, into the mainstream system. And so these are the things that, I look at my parents, I look at me, I look at you, I look at, look at this family, this amazing family, brother and sister, born without disabilities. My mom had a miscarriage for her 4th child. Can't wait to meet my sibling when I go home to heaven. And so this is all the greatest story of David is for all of us. It's for all of us. Whether it's the parents of Nick or Nick's kids or Nick's great-great-grandkids, we all going to face giants, Phil. And right now, I'm telling everyone right now, go to angel.com/David to be inspired right now to make a pledge to say, I want the David Project to be done. I don't want just another entertainment piece done. I want something with meaning. You see the Prince of Egypt, that was great, but the quality of what you guys are doing is through the roof. Through the roof.
Thank
and
you.
So this is an honor and a privilege, Phil, that we get to partner with you and what God's doing with you, thanks to Angel Studios, to be part of this funding part. And I'll tell you right now, I've been in the movie industry for 13 years. People don't know that.
Yeah.
I've been deplatformed off YouTube in 2011. I was canceled out of my bank in 2019. I have had a grenade at my home, a spying drone at my home. I've had lawsuits.
Wow.
We've had so many giants that we've had to face in just the last 3 years. And now, like never before, pastors don't have a spine. And we at least got to give them a helping hand to say, look, let's get behind this, church. You, your cell group, your community, your Christian school. Let's get behind this David project, because this to me is an explosive, God-bathed, ordained project that I truly believe will inspire many people, and actually many people that actually are not of our same religion, and that will actually be like, oh, wow, seeds of faith, seeds of hope. If not now, Phil, when does the world need seeds of hope and faith? The time is now. Let's go and let's get on board. I want to see 30G right now. Forget about 15 grand, 30 grand right now pledge on angel.com/David. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm telling you right now. I want to see this absolutely relevant story, God-given story, God-ordained story, but for such a time as this. I'm a part of it, and thank you, Phil, for helping me be a part of this. I'm so excited.
No, Nick, thank you. And I really appreciate you. That story you told and sharing your parents' story, just love it. And I really love what you're saying about everyone's facing giants. My wife's got a certain book she read where it starts off, life is difficult. And actually, the sooner you realize that, the better, and face it. But there's a way through it. And for me, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. And but thanks for sharing your story, because it just makes it so real, seeing those pictures of your parents and what they had to walk through. And Nick, thank you for joining us tonight. I'm just going to check if there's any questions. I'm going to release you in a moment because you've been amazing. And thank you for dealing with our technological giants at the beginning. So I just want to check if there's any questions for Nick specifically before we release him and take on questions about the actual movie. But Nick, just to say, while we're waiting to see if there's any questions for you, one little trivia question for you. Talking about story, what is your favorite movie personally of all time? A movie that you've just enjoyed watching and that's inspired you?
Gladiator, a Ford versus Ferrari, Braveheart. The soppy stuff was Notebook, La La Land. But Gladiator is my favorite. That soundtrack, there's nothing like it. But I'll tell you right now, movies and music is so important. It's the cornerstones of life that you almost define therein. But look, I want to ask you a question, Phil. So someone I'm sure is asking, when is this going to be done? So their pledges, what's after the pledge?
Right.
Help us understand, okay, I'm giving you $1,000 like someone just gave. Come on, I want to see those donations come up. It's not a donation, it's a pledge. And it's a potential investment, not a donation. But Phil, help our viewers understand who's never done this before. Okay, we're pledging, I'm interested, here's my pledge. What happens next, Phil?
That's such an awesome question. Let me dive in and quickly say, and I'll answer that question very directly. So typically, an animated feature film takes 4 to 7 years to make. The good news, Nick, is that we are well into the process. So the budget for this film is $55 million. We've already raised $25 million, and we've spent $20 million on the movie already. We're into the next 5 now. So what we're doing in this pledging phase is we're pledging to raise for the next $30 million. And if all goes well and we reach our targets, we aim to finish the film, and I'll explain why it takes so long, by the end of 2024, and then we'll release the movie in 2025. But one of the beauties of an animated feature film is, if I can liken it to an apple orchard. If you've got to water and fertilize an apple tree for 5 years, you won't see an apple. But if you keep watering and fertilizing it, you then get apples for 20 years. And so if you think of movies like The Lion King, like Prince of Egypt, They go on for decades, and they turn into things like the Broadway musical, The Lion King, which, by the way, is Disney's single biggest earner. The Lion King musical has earned up to $8 billion. So if you can imagine an animated feature film, if it does well, it's particularly a musical like David, one of our goals is to grow it into a musical, for example, as well. So to give you an idea on timeline, it takes a while to make an animated feature film. For every second of film you're seeing, it's 24 still frames, all put together, and every frame has got a composite of 20 to 50 layers. So there's this incredible amount of work to put it all together. So people who are pledging are heading towards helping us fund the last $30 million, which would help us finish the film by the end of 2024, which would help us release the film in 2025. Is that making sense, Nick? Am I answering your question?
Yeah, sure. So Phil, when you say release, what does that look like? Is it going to be in theaters? What does that look like? What's the impact globally?
Okay, so that's a great question again. So one of our passions, this film is being made for cinema. It's being made cinematically, beautifully, epically, and our passion is definitely to release it in cinema. We've got a really cool strategy, which we probably don't have time to go into now, but just to say, with Angel Studios, our goal is to be the most watched animated theatrical film of all time. So that is what we're aiming at and what our goal is. And just to say, Nick, I want this movie to be seen in the US, in South America, in Africa, in Asia, in Europe, and even in Australia.
So we're really thankful, everyone watching. Thank you, Phil, for watching. I don't see any questions coming up. And I do want to say that I'm really excited. I mean, what has been the biggest giant you've had to conquer while working on this project? That's a good question for you. What has been the biggest giant you've had, Phil, to conquer while working on this project? Good one.
That's a great question. Thank you for asking that question, Emily. So I'd say one of the biggest challenges is, there's so many, but let me try and get on to the biggest one. I think when you're trying to make a movie that's genuinely going to compete with the Tangles of the world, the Frozens of the world in terms of quality and reach, that is the challenge of putting a team together that's actually going to achieve that. So you're not just verbally saying, I want to make a movie. There's a difference between a dream and a vision. So I think the giant is making a movie that's really going to tell at that level genuinely. And that takes, the money is actually a small part of it. The creativity, the unity, and the quality of people in the film that you've got to get to make that happen over time is a massive giant, but it's a great lot of fun making it as well.
So you've got all the pieces, and the biggest part right now is money, because without money, you can't do what you're doing. And so we're so excited for everyone to actually participate and see this incredible opportunity to be a part of David, the Project David. And I want to say thank you all for joining us. Thank you to Angel Studio for doing projects that we all believe in, that we could even choose. Oh, I want to invest in this. I want to see this dream come into reality. So Phil Cunningham, give our love and greetings to everybody. Thank you for joining me here on the live stream and allowing me to join you on the live stream. And I'm so excited to see the success of the pledges being made and your goals being reached, so that so many people around the world can actually be absolutely inspired and change forever and through the generations, as you said, decades and decades and decades later. Love you so much.
Thank you, Nick, and good night or good day. And I'll say just to wrap up, but thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Nick. Thanks so much. So everyone on the live stream, wow, what an incredible privilege to have Nick with us. And he's incredibly humble, and just the stories he brought us, so inspiring. And the fact that he likens his challenges to anybody else's. Nick, thank you. You're an inspiration to us and a real modern day David. I think there might be one or two more questions. We'll just check quickly before we close. And then maybe we can just do a quick... So no more questions. Please, if you do have questions, you can go to our social media page and check out and ask us any questions you'd like there as well. And thank you so much for joining us tonight. And watch this space. Please feel free to join us on the adventure. If you want to, you can go to angel.com/David. And that's where you can find out more about the project. We're going to just show the David demo one more time just to end off. So please enjoy it. And thank you so much for joining us on the adventure. It's going to be a lot of fun and a great ride. Thank you so much.
Look into my eyes. Do you see fear? You come at me with sword and spear, but I come in the name of the God of Israel. Yes! Right between the eyes! Did you see that? Anyone? Of course not. Okay then, one more time. Tally, not now. I'm trying to protect us from this Philistine. Whoa. No, not that way. Come on. Back to your mom. Right, Philistine. Oh, wait. Right between the eyes. Oh, of course. That one you saw. Tally! Tally, no! I'm coming, girl! Whoa, easy! Shira! I will bring her home safely. Whoa! Tally, wait, no! There you go. I'm almost there. Okay. Oh! Tally, stop! No! Oh, that doesn't help. That does. Stop. Thank you. Yena haleni nafshi yeshobeh yancheni b'mgalet tzedek leman